Let's talk about the man that women, powerful, beautiful, intelligent women, never walk away from. Because here's the truth: beauty doesn't make a woman stay, attention doesn't guarantee her loyalty, and money, it might keep her entertained, but it will never keep her captivated. You can't hold a woman of depth with shallow tricks. You can't impress a woman of worth with borrowed confidence. She sees through illusions. She reads energy. She remembers how you made her feel far longer than she remembers what you bought her. So who is he, the man women don't leave? He is the man who knows himself, and not in the loud, self-declared, look-at-me kind of way. He is quietly rooted. He doesn't perform for approval. He doesn't chase validation. He doesn't fear being alone because he has met himself in silence and made peace with who he is. That kind of security. That kind of self-respect, it's magnetic, it's rare, it's irresistible to a woman who's already fought her own wars and healed from her own wounds. He is the man who listens, not to reply, not to control, not to manipulate. He listens because he values her voice. He wants to understand, not assume. He knows the difference between hearing words and feeling someone's heart. He doesn't interrupt her softness with ego. He doesn't punish her honesty, and that safety, the emotional safety, becomes her sanctuary. She blooms in it. She softens in it. She chooses him, not out of fear, but out of freedom. He is the man who leads with integrity. Not with charm, not with empty promises, but with alignment. His actions match his words. He doesn't flirt with other women to test her loyalty. He doesn't play games to feel powerful. His masculinity is not performative, it's protective. He doesn't need to dominate to feel strong. He empowers her and still leads. He doesn't view her as competition. He sees her as a partner. And in a world full of boys who confuse arrogance with confidence, he becomes unforgettable. He is emotionally intelligent. He doesn't panic at tears. He doesn't run from uncomfortable conversations. He doesn't call her too much. Just because she's expressive, he has done the inner work. He's had the hard conversations with himself. So when she brings emotion to the table, he doesn't fold. He holds space. That emotional maturity, that emotional discipline, it's the difference between temporary attraction and lifelong respect. He is the man with purpose. You know the type. He doesn't waste his days chasing distractions. He's not addicted to short-term pleasure. He has a vision for his life, a mission that fuels him. And when a man walks in his purpose, he doesn't beg for attention. He attracts it. His ambition isn't rooted in ego. It's rooted in service, in legacy, in becoming a better version of himself every single day. And women, real women, are drawn to that fire because they know when a man moves with vision, he leads with clarity. He doesn't make her guess. He doesn't keep her confused. He chooses her intentionally, fully, with direction. And most of all, he respects her femininity. He doesn't shame it. He doesn't suppress it. He honors the depth of a woman, not just her beauty. He's not intimidated by her strength or threatened by her independence. He sees both her softness and her fire, and he makes space for all of it. She doesn't have to shrink around him. She doesn't have to be less to make him feel more. And that's what makes him unforgettable, because in the end, the man women never leave isn't perfect. He doesn't pretend to be. He's flawed. He's growing, he's human, but he is consistent. He is intentional. He is present. He doesn't just take up space in her life. He adds value to it. He doesn't just exist in her world. He builds with her. And when a man makes a woman feel seen, heard, protected, and deeply respected, she doesn't look elsewhere. She doesn't want to, because she's not looking for a savior. She's not looking for a show. She's looking for a man whose energy matches her peace, whose strength matches her softness, whose loyalty is louder than his words. That's the man hot women never leave. Let's get this straight right now. Peace isn't some bonus prize you get after life stops being messy. Peace is not a luxury item. It's not something that's reserved for retirement or when your kids grow up. or when you finally find the right partner, or when your boss stops micromanaging you, or when your family stops pulling you in 10 different directions. Peace is not something that shows up at the finish line. It's the path you walk on. And if you're treating your own peace like it's optional, like it's extra, like it only matters once everyone else's needs are met, then let me be very clear, you're living upside down. Peace is a non-negotiable, period. If you don't have peace, you don't have space to think. You don't have the room to breathe. You can't be present. You can't hear your own thoughts. And that's not just inconvenient, it's dangerous. Because when you don't have peace, you start losing yourself. You start living on autopilot. You start reacting instead of responding. You start saying yes when everything inside you is screaming no. And little by little, your life becomes something you no longer recognize. Not because it all went wrong in one big moment, but because you kept tolerating little things that chipped away at your soul. You see, a lot of people walk around thinking that peace is what happens when nothing is going wrong. But real peace, it's what happens when everything could be going wrong, and you still choose to protect your space, your spirit, and your sanity. Peace isn't a passive thing. It's not something that just lands in your lap one morning. Peace is active, it's intentional, it's about what you allow in, what you say no to, who you give access to. And if you're not fiercely protecting it, if you're not treating it like something sacred, it's going to get trampled by someone else's urgency, someone else's crisis, someone else's drama. Let's talk about that drama for a second. Some of you are drowning in chaos that doesn't even belong to you. You've got your peace tied to people who thrive on dysfunction. You're emotionally babysitting adults who don't want to grow. You're responding to every fire alarm someone else sets off, like it's your job to put out flames they keep lighting. That's not compassion, that's codependency. And if you keep living in that reactive cycle, you're going to burn out. Not because you're weak, but because your peace was never meant to be a casualty of someone else's recklessness. Peace isn't about control, it's about clarity. It's about knowing what brings you back to yourself and fiercely guarding that. It's about knowing what conversations drain you, what environments agitate you, what patterns derail you, and refusing to keep inviting them back in. It's not personal, it's protective. Not everyone deserves access to your calm. Not every situation deserves your energy, and not every apology deserves your re-entry. If someone only brings you stress, if their presence makes you anxious, if their patterns are loud but their accountability is silent, why are they still in your space? Why are they still on your phone? Why are they still getting your attention? That's a peace leak. That's your energy bleeding out, and it's not going to stop until you plug the hole with a boundary, with distance, with silence if necessary. And yes, it'll feel uncomfortable at first. Yes, people might call you cold. Yes, they might try to guilt you back into the role you played for so long. But guess what? That discomfort is the cost of your healing. That silence, that distance, that's where your clarity comes back. You don't owe anyone your peace, especially not people who make it their habit to disrupt it. You don't owe anyone your time, your attention, your empathy, if the price of admission is your mental stability. You're allowed to leave rooms where the energy doesn't feel right. You're allowed to end conversations that go nowhere but in circles. You're allowed to unplug from the group chat, from the toxic relative, from the needy ex, from the job that treats you like you're disposable. Why? Because your peace is not for sale. It's not negotiable. It's not a reward. It's a requirement. The real question is, how much of your life are you building around your peace? Or better yet, how much of your peace are you sacrificing to build a life that looks good from the outside but feels like chaos on the inside? You've got the job, the title, the relationship, the likes, the approval, and yet you lie awake at night in a swirl of anxiety. That's the price of neglecting peace, and it's a price too many people pay in silence, pretending they're okay while their soul is screaming for space, for quiet, for stillness. You're not weak for needing peace. You're not fragile for protecting your calm. You're not broken for walking away from what's loud, toxic, or draining. That's strength, that's maturity, that's wisdom. And it's a wisdom a lot of people won't understand, especially the ones who benefit from your chaos. But you weren't put here to be constantly reactive. You weren't made to be available to every ping, every text, every demand, every emotional emergency. You weren't built to live in survival mode. You were built to create. To think, to move through life with presence, to wake up in the morning and feel grounded, not already on edge, to be around people who pour into you, not people who treat your peace like a dumping ground. And that's the point. Your peace is not a landfill for other people's baggage. It's not a convenience store for people to grab what they need and leave. It's a sanctuary. Treat it like one. That means saying no. That means closing the door. That means canceling the plans when your body says rest. That means muting the chat, putting your phone on airplane mode, not explaining your every move. That means walking away from what no longer feels aligned, even if there's no closure, even if they never understand, even if it means starting over. Because here's the thing, starting over in peace is better than staying stuck in chaos. Every time, and no, it won't always be obvious. Sometimes you'll be so used to the noise that silence feels like loneliness. Sometimes the calm feels foreign because you've been addicted to the adrenaline of dysfunction. But stay with it. Let the silence teach you. Let the stillness show you what you've been running from. You'll be amazed at how much more clearly you can hear yourself when everything else stops yelling. Peace is clarity. Peace is power. Peace is knowing that you don't have to engage with every opinion, respond to every criticism, show up to every argument. Peace is the pause that gives you perspective. And in a world that's constantly shouting at you to react, to rush, to keep up, choosing peace is a radical act of self-respect. It's a rebellion against the noise. You weren't born to be a sponge for other people's dysfunction. You weren't designed to perform calm while internally falling apart. That version of strong is a lie. True strength is in your ability to walk away, to pause, to choose your battles, to sit in your own company and actually enjoy it. And you can't do that if your peace is always up for negotiation. You don't need permission to protect it. You don't need validation to defend it. You don't need everyone to understand it. You just need to decide, once and for all, that your peace is sacred, that your peace is power, that your peace is the foundation for everything else in your life, because without it, nothing else works. Your relationships suffer, your health deteriorates, your creativity dries up, your energy drains, but with it, you become unstoppable, focused, clear, aligned. So no more treating peace like it's a privilege you haven't earned yet. No more handing it over just to keep the peace with others while destroying it within yourself. No more apologizing for needing space, quiet, simplicity. This is your life, this is your energy, this is your mind, and peace isn't just something you get to experience when life gives you permission. It's something you have to choose every single day, over and over again, until the noise fades, until the chaos clears, until you finally remember what it feels like to breathe, to be, to exist in your life without constantly having to recover from it. That is what peace does, that is why it matters, and that is why it's non-negotiable. You don't need a PhD in psychology to know when someone is disturbing your peace. You feel it. The moment they walk in, your body tenses. Your energy drops, your thoughts get cloudy. There's a pit in your stomach, a knot in your chest, and yet you keep letting them in. You keep taking the calls, replying to the texts, accepting the invitations, and entertaining the drama. even though every part of you is screaming that this isn't right, that this person doesn't bring peace into your life. They bring pressure, they bring noise, they bring guilt, manipulation, chaos, and still you stay on the call. You go to lunch, you let them back in. Why? Let's be honest here. We confuse loyalty with self-abandonment. We think being a good person means being endlessly available, endlessly patient, endlessly forgiving. We think we're supposed to keep the door open no matter how many times someone slams it in our face. We think that setting a boundary is cold, that saying no is selfish, that protecting our peace means we're being rude or unkind. But that's a lie, and it's a lie that's costing you your mental health, your clarity, and your joy. The truth is simple. People who disrupt your peace, who leave you drained, who consistently disrespect your emotional space, they don't deserve access to you. And when you continue to give them that access, you are telling yourself and the world that your peace is negotiable, that your well-being is up for grabs, that anyone can come in, throw their emotional baggage on your floor and leave you to clean it up, that anyone can unload, unravel, and undo you, and you'll just keep smiling, nodding, staying silent, and absorbing it. That has to stop, because the more you do it, the more you train yourself to accept relationships that don't nourish you, the more you condition yourself to think that being disrespected is normal, and the more you distance yourself from the very thing you're craving the most: inner calm, stability, peace. Now let's get something straight. Peace isn't passive. It's not about avoiding people or running away from problems. It's about discernment. It's about knowing who adds to your life and who subtracts. It's about paying attention to how you feel during and after your interactions with someone. Are you uplifted, grounded, centered? Or are you left spinning, second, guessing, emotionally depleted? That's the litmus test. How someone makes you feel isn't just emotional fluff, it's data. And when you ignore that data in favor of keeping people happy, you're abandoning yourself. You're sacrificing your own emotional safety for the sake of someone else's comfort. And that's not noble. That's not love. That's self-neglect. We need to stop making space for people who don't make space for us. We need to stop giving explanations for decisions that are rooted in self-respect. We need to stop feeling guilty for drawing lines when someone keeps pushing past our limits. If someone makes you feel small, confused, anxious, guilty, or unworthy, they are not your people. And your job is not to fix them. Your job is not to absorb their dysfunction and turn it into a lesson. Your job is to notice the pattern, acknowledge the pain, and then close the door. Because here's the thing: people who genuinely care about your peace will protect it. They won't mock it, dismiss it, or violate it. They won't weaponize your boundaries or try to shame you for setting them. They will listen. They will honor your space. They will adjust. And if they can't do that, if your peace threatens their control, their chaos, or their ego, then they were never meant to be that close to you in the first place. You don't owe everyone access. Let me repeat that louder for the people pleasers in the back. You do not owe everyone access. Not everyone gets to sit at your table. Not everyone earns a front row seat in your life. Some people are background noise and they need to stay there. Because the longer you keep bringing disruptive energy into your inner circle, the more out of alignment your life becomes. Think about it. Your peace is your foundation. It's the thing that allows you to think clearly, make wise decisions, and show up fully in your life. When it's disturbed, everything else becomes harder. Your focus slips, your relationships suffer, your energy drops. You can't build anything stable on shaky ground. And people who consistently disturb your peace are the earthquake. So what do? You stop trying to convince people to respect you. You stop negotiating with dysfunction. You stop dancing around red flags like they're just personality quirks. You stop hoping that if you're nice enough, kind enough, tolerant enough, they'll eventually treat you the way you deserve. That's not how change works. That's not how respect works, and that's not how peace is protected. Peace requires action. It requires making tough choices. It requires walking away from conversations that go nowhere. It requires declining invitations that come with strings attached. It requires ending relationships that feel more like emotional minefields than safe havens. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable. Yes, it will make you question yourself. Yes, it might even trigger guilt or fear, but that discomfort is temporary. The peace that follows, that's the reward. You have to get to a point in your life where your peace is non-negotiable, where your sanity matters more than someone's approval, where your mental health matters more than keeping the peace externally. Because what's the point of pleasing everyone else if you're quietly falling apart on the inside? There's this idea that being strong means staying silent, that being mature means tolerating people who drain you, that being spiritual or loving means turning the other cheek indefinitely. But strength is not silence, maturity is not martyrdom, and love, real loving, includes self-love. And self-love protects peace. You are allowed to prioritize your peace. You are allowed to stop responding to people who only reach out when they want something. You are allowed to take space from relationships that feel heavy. You are allowed to change your mind, your boundaries, your phone number, whatever it takes, and you don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to justify your distance. You don't have to apologize for needing space from what disrupts your spirit. Because here's what happens when you start doing this. Your life becomes clearer, your decisions become easier, your heart becomes lighter. You begin to attract people who respect your boundaries because you respect them yourself. You begin to build a life that's rooted in calm, not chaos, in authenticity, not performance, in truth, not tolerance, and that's the goal. To live a life that feels good on the inside, not just one that looks good on the outside. To wake up without dread, to walk into your home, your relationships, your work, and feel safe, and that kind of peace, it's priceless, which is exactly why not everyone should have access to it. You are the gatekeeper of your life. You decide who comes in. You decide who stays. You decide who gets the privilege of your energy, your time, your presence. And the moment you realize that your peace is sacred, you'll stop letting it be trampled by people who don't even understand its value. If someone disrespects your peace once, maybe they didn't know better. If they do it twice, they're testing your limits. But if it becomes a pattern, and you still allow it, that's not on them anymore. That's on you. That's your cue to close the door, to change the locks, to remember who you are and what you deserve, because the most powerful decision you can ever make is this: to protect your peace like your life depends on it. Because it does. Let's stop lying to ourselves. Control is not peace. Control is a panic response wrapped in perfectionism, disguised as productivity. Control is the illusion that if you can just manage everything, every conversation, every emotion, every response, then nothing will hurt you. Nothing will fall apart. Nothing will catch you off guard. But it's a trap, a heavy one, because while you're busy trying to micromanage every detail, life is passing you by. Your energy is being drained. And your peace, it's nowhere in sight, because peace doesn't come from control. It comes from boundaries. You think you'll feel peace once they finally change, once they stop doing that thing that drives you crazy, once they start calling back, once they finally say sorry. But let's be honest, peace isn't something someone else hands you. Peace is something you create intentionally with your choices. And the number one choice that protects peace is boundaries. Not manipulation, not over-explaining, not bending over backward to keep everyone happy. Boundaries, clear, consistent, unapologetic standards for what you allow in your space, your mind, your energy, and your life. The need for control comes from fear. Fear that if you don't stay on top of everything, it'll fall apart. That if you don't say the right thing, they'll leave. That if you don't show up perfectly, you'll be rejected. So you hustle, you overfunction, you perform, you tolerate more than you should because it feels safer to stay in control than to set a boundary that might be misunderstood. But let me tell you, control is exhausting. And it never works long term because people can feel when you're trying to manage their emotions. They can feel the tension under your words, and you know what? That's not peace, that's performance. Real peace starts when you decide you don't need to manage anyone but yourself. You stop trying to fix people. You stop trying to guess what they're thinking. You stop trying to twist yourself into someone more likable, agreeable, tolerable, just to avoid conflict. Peace shows up when you decide that your responsibility ends where someone else's begins, when you stop picking up emotional messes that aren't yours to clean, when you let go of needing to be the fixer and instead become the protector of your own energy. Boundaries are not walls, they're not ultimatums, they're not punishments. Boundaries are clarity. Boundaries say, this is who I am, this is what I value, this is what I will and won't allow. It's the highest form of self-respect. And the truth is, boundaries don't push people away. They filter out the ones who were never willing to show up right in the first place. And that's exactly what you need. You don't need more control. You need more clarity. You need to get radically honest about what you've been tolerating under the label of love, loyalty, or obligation, and call it what it really is, a lack of boundaries. The reason you feel drained is not because you're doing too much. It's because you're doing too much for people who don't honor your limits, and that's not their fault. That's on you, because people will always take what you're willing to give. If you're always available, always flexible, always saying yes, don't be shocked when no one checks in on how you're really doing. Don't be shocked when people treat you like a convenience you trained them to. And the only way to undo that pattern is to start drawing lines and holding them. There will be people who don't like it, people who call you selfish, people who push back. Of course they will, especially if your exhaustion has been benefiting their comfort. But their resistance is not a reason to back down. It's confirmation that the boundary was necessary, because anyone who truly loves you wants you to be well. They don't want your peace to come at the cost of your sanity. They don't want a version of you that's always tired, resentful, stretched thin, and afraid to speak up. Control feels safer in the short term, but it breeds anxiety. It keeps you in a state of hypervigilance, always wondering if you said the right thing, did the right thing, are being perceived the right way. And no amount of control will make people behave better. No amount of walking on eggshells will stop someone from being disrespectful if that's who they are. You cannot outperform someone else's lack of maturity. You cannot change a taker by giving more. You cannot force someone to value you by shrinking your needs to fit their comfort. But a boundary says, I don't chase peace from you. I protect peace within me. A boundary says, I'm not afraid to walk away if it costs me my self-worth. A boundary doesn't ask for change, it requires it. And if someone can't respect that, that's the answer. That's not your failure. That's their capacity. And you have to be okay with that. You have to stop expecting people to become what they've shown you they're not. You have to accept what people show you the first time, and then decide how much access they get to you moving forward. You are allowed to change your availability. You are allowed to stop explaining yourself. You are allowed to say, this no longer works for me. You are allowed to protect your peace, even if it disappoints others, especially if it disappoints the people who have been benefiting from your lack of boundaries. Because here's what no one tells you. You don't need permission to change the rules mid-game when you realize the game has been rigged against you. You can wake up today and decide to start doing things differently. You can decide that your peace is sacred, that your time is valuable, that your heart is not up for negotiation. And when you do that, when you stop trying to control other people's behavior, reactions, and approval, you'll finally be free. Free from the pressure to perform, free from the stress of always trying to hold it all together, free from the anxiety of wondering when the next emotional blow will land, because now you're not living in response to others. You're living in alignment with yourself. You're not reacting, you're choosing. You're not spinning in chaos. You're grounded in clarity. That's what boundaries do. They return the power back to you. They take your peace out of someone else's hands and place it firmly in your own. And the best part, you don't need anyone else to change in order to have peace. You just need to change what you tolerate, what you allow, what you give energy to. You just need to stop managing everyone else's comfort and start prioritizing your own. Let this be the moment you stop confusing control with care. You can care deeply and still say no. You can love someone and still choose yourself. You can be kind without being compliant. Boundaries are not the opposite of love. They are love in action. They are how you love yourself enough to stop allowing patterns that destroy your peace. They are how you honor your own needs even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's new, even when it feels scary. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone your exhaustion. You don't owe anyone access to your life just because you've known them a long time. The only thing you owe yourself is the courage to stop overfunctioning and start protecting your peace, not through control, not through manipulation, but through strong, clear, and non-negotiable boundaries. So next time you feel the urge to control, pause, ask yourself, what am I afraid of? What am I trying to avoid? And is there a boundary I've been too afraid to set? Then say the thing, do the thing, set the line. Hold it not for them, but for you, because at the end of the day, you are the gatekeeper of your own peace, and it's about time you started acting like it.